all eyes will be on this important bilateral meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping that takes place in the evening today. Well, the meeting will underscore the upturn in the India-China relation following a consensus on patrolling arrangement along the line of actual control that had faced multiple hiccups over the last few years. The development comes today after the government announced that India and China reached an agreement to resume patrolling at the remaining friction points along the LAC in eastern Ladakh, where tensions have persisted since the Galwan Valley clash in 2020. Well, let's also listen in to Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri confirming the meeting that has been planned and lined up for the evening.
I can confirm that there will be a bilateral meeting held between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping tomorrow, 23rd of October, on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit. The exact time and other logistics are being worked out, but the meeting will take place tomorrow.
Big breaking news now coming in. We're learning center now gets tough after 100 hoax bomb threats have been made to airlines and has slammed X and Meta for abetting crime. Well, what we're learning at the moment is that IT Ministry also has slammed social media platforms, questioning X and Meta in the virtual meeting that was held. My colleague Aishwarya joining us on the broadcast, getting us more details on this important meeting that was held virtually today. In just a bit, well, we'll be getting more details on that. Meanwhile, what we are learning at the moment is that after hoax bomb threats were circulated on social media, and the government also assuring that strict action would be taken against such violators and those making these hoax calls. Well, the center now has slammed X and also social media platform Meta, saying that they have been abetting crime. Well, strong words that have been used by the Indian government as it slammed social media platforms. Well, a number of hoax bomb threats have been made in the recent few days to airlines, with airlines diverting their flights or even cancelling them. And a center, of course, has assured that strict action would be taken against those who violate the rules, and also spoke about bringing in stringent laws to deal with such people. Well, all right, that's the latest news that we are getting at the moment. Big breaking news that's coming at the moment. As per the information we are learning now, the center has slammed X as well as Meta over this issue. Well, my colleague Aishwarya joining us on the broadcast here. Aishwarya, we do understand there's a virtual meeting that was held between the government officials as well as representatives from X and Meta. What happened in that meeting?
Well, remember, it was the Civil Aviation Minister Ramohan Naidu who stated earlier that the Civil Aviation Ministry has roped in each and every agency, including the Ministry of Home Affairs as well. And now the developments coming in as far as the Ministry of Information Technology is concerned. Yesterday, the Joint Secretary, Sanket S. Bonve, had chaired a meeting, which is a virtual meeting, and called upon the social media platforms, including X, Meta, and also the airlines, which includes Air India, Vistara, and other airlines as well, to ask as to what sort of information they have. Upon what we are getting to understand from the meeting, that the ministry had pulled up social media X and went on to the extent of saying that present situation amounts to X abetting crime. Remember, it has been also stated by these to the social media platforms that what action they have taken to those social media handles from which these threat posts had been generated, and whether they have identified the individuals or not, and certainly now pulling up social media platforms on this matter and reporting it back to the Ministry of Home Affairs and Civil Aviation in this regard.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aishwarya, for getting us all those details there. Well, that's the latest information coming in. We'll keep an eye on the developments as they take place and get you more. Shifting our focus now to the conversations we've had during the NDTV World Summit 2024. Well, the road to success is often paved with failure. At least that's how things turned out for entrepreneur and investor Kunal Bahl. He didn't get into IIT, something that his parents were hoping for, but it didn't stop him from achieving huge success in his life. Listen into this conversation we had with him.
As you explained that fundamentally, it's a fascinating concept, but it's also an attitudinal expression, right? Like yesterday we had the Prime Minister here speaking about AI is not just for artificial intelligence, but aspirational India as well. When you come up with jargons and terms which are local in nature and something that's homegrown, it also reflects that aspiration.
No, absolutely. I think the Prime Minister has made an indelible contribution to the startup economy. When I started my startup journey, I was 23 years old in 2007. There was nothing known as a startup. There was no nomenclature called a startup, however strange that may seem right now. You either did a business or you did a job, right? And the business was typically the one you inherited or you joined your parents' business. There was nothing sitting in the seemingly twilight zone of this is not your family business and it is also not a job. There was no word for it. Imagine. Startup came into national parlance only around 2015 when the Startup India initiative was evangelized and launched by the Honorable Prime Minister. And because of that, startups gained legitimacy. They gained recognition. Suddenly parents in small towns were not aghast the moment their 23-year-old child who went to IIT after a lot of struggle by the parents saying, I will not join McKinsey or Goldman Sachs or Microsoft or Google, and I'm going to start something and I'm going to make zero money for the next few years. And likely we are going to be in debt during that period. They were no longer aghast at that. And that contribution, I think, significantly goes to the Prime Minister and obviously the role models that have now become available to the younger generation of founders.
All right, on that note, it's time to wrap this edition. More news and updates continue on the other side. Keep watching NDTV.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
Days after border breakthrough, PM Modi and Xi Jinping will hold their first formal meeting in 5 years on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit in Russia. In the Bengaluru building collapse case, 6 people have died. Building owner has been arrested for negligence. Top court grills Punjab and Haryana government. Supreme Court says that they must list action taken on stubble fire. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra files a nomination from Wayanad, marking her electoral debut. She also held a roadshow ahead of her nomination.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
And impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead. From Maximum City, Mumbai,
To the seat of power, Delhi.
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show. Breakfast news on NDTV. 8 a.m. every day.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने।
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
AI is going to be one of the most important drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news.
Very good afternoon. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vadva. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including the United Nations as calling for a quick investigation into an Israeli airstrike that left 18 people, including 4 children, dead and 60 others wounded near a university hospital in Beirut.
In the conduct of military operations, all feasible precautions must be taken to avoid and, in any event, to minimize incidental loss of civilian life, injury to civilians, and damage to civilian objects. Hospitals, ambulances, and medical personnel are specifically protected under international humanitarian law because of their life-saving function for the wounded and sick. Any incidents which affect hospitals must be subjected to a prompt and thorough investigation. The UN calls for an immediate cessation to hostilities, and we remind all parties that the protection of civilians must be the absolute top priority.
White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby says that President Joe Biden is deeply concerned about the release of classified documents on Israel's preparations for a potential retaliatory attack on Iran.
We're deeply concerned, and the president remains deeply concerned about any leakage of classified information into the public domain. That is not supposed to happen, and it's unacceptable when it does. So he's deeply concerned about that, and you can rest assured that he will be actively monitoring the progress of the investigative effort to figure out how this happened. And obviously, he'll be very interested in hearing.
Iran said Monday it has sent a note of protest to the UN Nuclear Watchdog Agency over the possibility of an Israeli strike against its nuclear facilities. Ismail Baghai, the spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry, has gone ahead and told reporters the complaint was sent to the director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA.
تهدید به تعرض به تأسیسات هسته‌ای کشور طبق اسناد و قطعنامه‌های مختلف بین‌المللی، از جمله یک قطعنامه مشخصی از قطعنامه شماره 533 محکوم و مردود هست و تفسیر ما از اون قطعنامه این هست که در این موارد تهدید علیه صلح و امنیت بین‌المللی تلقی. ما طی یادداشت خیلی مشخص و مستدلی به سازمان آژانس بین‌المللی انرژی هسته‌ای مراتب رو اعلام کردیم. در سطح سازمان ملل متحد و شورای امنیت پیگیر هستیم. یادداشت اعتراضی ما به صورت مستدل برای دبیرخانه یا برای شخص مدیر کل آژانس بین‌المللی انرژی هسته‌ای ارسال شده.
And right-wing activists gathered near Kibbutz Be'eri at the Gaza border during the Jewish feast, this is of Sukkot, calling for renewed Jewish settlement in the Gaza Strip. Be'eri was one of the hardest hit communities during the attack that took place last year on the 7th of October. Israel's military said that it allowed 50 trucks carrying humanitarian aid from Jordan into the northern part of Gaza. The aid comes as Israel faces more pressure from the United States to ramp up aid deliveries to the northern part of Gaza, where the United Nations says a renewed Israeli military operation has in fact stopped the flow of aid and plunged the area into a deeper humanitarian catastrophe. Now, Israeli strikes on homes as far as the northern part of Gaza is concerned overnight left at least 87 people dead or missing as a large-scale operation continued against the militants of Hamas. 6 Palestinians, including a woman and child, were killed when an Israeli strike hit a car in central part of Gaza. Relatives were, in fact, they had to see wrapped bodies before funeral prayers were held and they were taken away for burial. Now, the latest strike on central Gaza came after Israeli forces launched that intense overnight bombardment on the north, leaving people dead and missing. Protesters calling for the release of hostages from Gaza gathered outside Tel Aviv. This is on Tuesday as the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli officials and relatives of the US-Israeli dual citizen hostages. Blinken arrived in Israel early on Tuesday for his 11th visit to the region since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war. The International Money Fund, IMF, on Tuesday upgraded its economic outlook for the United States this year while lowering its expectations for growth in Europe and China. It left its forecast for global growth unchanged at a relatively lackluster 3.2% for 2024. The IMF expects the US economy, the world's largest, to expand 2.8% this year, down slightly from 2.9% last year, but an improvement on the 2.6% that it had forecast for 2024 back in July. Growth in the United States has been led by strong consumer spending fueled by healthy gains in inflation-adjusted wages. Next year, though, the IMF is expecting that the United States economy to decelerate to 2.2% growth. With a new presidential administration and Congress in place, the IMF envisions the nation's job market losing some momentum in 2025 as the government begins seeking to curb huge budget deficits by slowing spending, raising taxes, or a combination of both. And President Joe Biden laid out into his predecessor, Donald Trump, on Tuesday, declaring that the former president is a genuine threat to democracy.
He won't even commit that if he loses this election, he'll go peacefully. He will not make that commitment. He talks about there being a bloodbath if he loses. These are words no president has ever used. No president ever used. And by the way, if you don't believe it now, you're going to learn if he wins. It's a serious, serious problem. So, folks, the first point I want to make to you is we must win. We must win not only for ourselves, but for our children, and the children aren't even born yet. It makes a significant difference. The only value of being around a long time, I have more experience than any president in the history of the United States of America. I've gotten to know, literally, not figuratively, that may be good or bad, and I've gotten to know every major world leader personally over those years because of my involvement in American foreign policy. The rest of the world is scared to death of what's going to happen if he gets elected. Not a joke. Not a joke. Every one of these international meetings I attend, I get pulled aside as I walk out and say, you got to win. You got to win. My democracy is at stake, meaning their democracy.
And Trump kicked off his rally in North Carolina by asking his audience if they are better off now than they were 4 years ago, and going ahead and saying that Kamala Harris is the country's worst ever vice president.
Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I don't think so. I don't think so. So I'm here today with a message of hope for all Americans. With your vote this election, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals into our country. This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of incompetence, failure, and disaster, or whether we'll begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. We'll do something that nobody will even believe.
And Rudy Giuliani must turn over sports memorabilia as well as other prized possessions to 2 Georgia election workers who won a $148 million defamation judgment against him, including his New York City apartment, more than 2 dozen luxury watches, and a 1980 Mercedes once owned by movie star Lauren Bacall. Now, the judge went on to rule on Tuesday that Giuliani does not have to give the election workers 3 New York Yankees World Series rings or his Florida condo, as those assets are tied up in another litigation. The property Giuliani must relinquish is expected to fetch several $1 million for Ruby Freeman and her daughter, who won the $148 million judgment over Giuliani's false ballot fraud claims against them related to the 2020 elections. Those were presidential elections. They said Giuliani pushed Donald Trump's lies about the election being stolen, which led to death threats that made them fear for their lives. Elon Musk is pledging to give away $1 million a day to voters for signing his Political Action Committee's petition backing the Constitution. The giveaway by the Donald Trump supporter is raising questions and alarms among some election experts who say it's a violation of the law to link a cash handout to signing a petition that also requires a person to be registered to vote. Musk has promised that he'd give away that daily amount until the 5th of November election for people signing his petition supporting the First Amendment, which protects freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment with its right to keep these are firearms as well. E. coli food poisoning linked to McDonald's quarter pounder hamburgers has sickened at least 49 people in 10 states, including 1 person who has died and 10 others who've been hospitalized, is what the federal health officials have gone on to say on Tuesday, including 1 child who was hospitalized with severe kidney complications. This is what the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention has gone ahead and reported. Infections were reported between the 27th of September and the 11th of October in Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, as well as Montana, Nebraska, Oregon, Utah, as well as Wisconsin and others. This is Colorado that has recorded the most number of cases at 27, followed by Nebraska with 9. Everyone interviewed in connection with the outbreak had reported that eating at McDonald's before they actually fell sick, and also mentioned eating the quarter pounder hamburger. That's what the CDC has gone ahead and said. Former Abercrombie & Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries, his romantic partner, and a 3rd man were arrested on Tuesday on charges of luring men into sex parties held around the world, sometimes by dangling the promise of modeling for the clothing retailer. Jeffries' partner Matthew Smith and their employee James Jacobson ran an international sex trafficking and prostitution business from 2008 to 2015 using Jeffries' status, wealth, and a web of household staff to fulfill the couple's sexual desires and keeping it all a secret. According to an indictment unsealed in federal court in Brooklyn, the 3 are charged with sex trafficking and interstate prostitution, including 15 unnamed accusers. Manhattan's popular Wessel sculpture has reopened with new safety features, including security guards and floor-to-ceiling mesh barriers to prevent visitors from jumping. The 150-foot structure, part of the Hudson Yards, was closed in 2021 after several suicides. It first opened in 2019 and now charges $10 a fee, that is a ticket, but on Thursdays it's free for New Yorkers. People laid flowers beside the Moscow grave of former Russian opposition leader Navalny on the day his book that was released. Navalny's widow Yulia has called the book a testament to his resilience. his courage, and also faith in a better future of the country of Russia. He was jailed after returning in 2021 from Germany, where he was recuperating from a nerve agent poisoning he blamed on the Kremlin. This is and was given 3 prison terms since. Russian officials have vehemently denied the involvement in both his poisoning and in his death. A book written by late Russian opposition leader Navalny was displayed at a bookstore in London ahead of his release on Tuesday. Patriot was announced in April by the publisher, who called it the late politician's, this is his final letter to the world. Navalny was President Vladimir Putin's fierce and most prominent foe and relentlessly campaigned against official corruption in the country of Russia. He died in a remote Arctic prison in February while serving a 19-year sentence on several charges, including running an extremist group. 2 men armed with daggers killed 2 transgender women at their home in a conservative northwest part of Pakistan overnight before fleeing the scene, is what the police have said. In a sign of increasing violence against trans people in the country, the killings happened in Mardan. 2 suspects have also been arrested in connection with the killings. Tom Hardy used the earpiece to become a remote control actor in his latest film, Venom. This is the 3rd and final installment of Tom Hardy-led Venom franchise. Once again, stars the Brit actor.
And then Kelly's also on that, so we'll record various different versions of each line. If at any event we're not like working, one of those lines doesn't quite work, we'll drop it out, re-record another one, or make up a new one, you know what I mean, and then put that in its place, so we can start to edit the soundscape into the scene. And also Kelly can use the earpiece at any point while she's watching the monitor to direct me in the scene as well. We can add that into.
If I want you to go open a door.
Yeah, or investigate a meaningful object or a space. But the optionality to do that is very freeing as a performer, because you're always focused on doing as opposed to acting. It's like I have constant support from Kelly. So you're literally being directed during the scene. So it's like being driven by a pilot if you were a helicopter, in like a remote control actor.
And Jonathan Bennett says he's flipping the script on romantic comedies. The Mean Girls star created, produced and stars in the trilogy of this film called The Groomsmen, where 3 friends' weddings are being told from the male point of view.
I kind of took the wrong shortcut. They beat me with sticks.
It's a trilogy of movies about 3 best friends and each of their weddings, and they're all groomsmen in each other's weddings. And I think with Deadpool and Wolverine and all the pop culture with the bromance right now in pop culture, and the audience is loving it, I think it's the perfect time to bring that to Hallmark, to have the love story and the rom-com told from the guy's point of view. We've seen it from the female perspective time and time again. Now it's time to kind of see what the guys are up to. What are the guys talking about when they go on their bachelor party? What kind of things do they get into? And also, like, I think it's really important to have these stories because it's a bunch of men being able to be vulnerable and talk to each other about their fears and their things that scare them. And just life is messy, and to see a group of guys like kind of sort through life together and take the piss out of each other. They're gonna tease each other, they're gonna banter, they're gonna do what boys do, but at the end of the day, they're also gonna be there and help each other stay honest and call each other out when, hey, you're not telling me the truth, or you're not being real with yourself. And I think that's something we haven't really seen in movies a lot. And so I thought it was time to tell the rom-com from that point of view.
And Cher explains her softening stance to a Rock Hall induction. The 78-year-old icon says that she's changed her mind when music executive David Geffen approached her with compliments. She was also swayed by her fellow induction class.
I got really softened when I heard the people that were going to be in and people that, that I admire. And then I just thought, I'm going to be with this group of people. I don't care about where I am with them. They're great, and I'm happy to just be with them. But I mean, I had kind of a love-hate relationship because it was like, I thought, what do I have to fucking do, to be inducted into this place? Like, really, what do you have to do to be part of it? And so then I was really proud to say, I don't want to be part of it, and don't get me in posthumously. But I have to tell you, I would have said to David, please take it back. But, you know, he was, sweetheart, you know, this is great and you deserve it. And I felt good. I can say that I'm happy that I'm in, you know, because if I didn't feel like it, I wouldn't say it, I wouldn't be here.
US Vice President Kamala Harris received a special birthday present from music icon Stevie Wonder as they attended a campaign event at a church. Wonder led the crowd in by singing his version of Happy Birthday to Harris, who turned 60 on the weekend. And it is Angelina Jolie who says that playing Moria in the new film Moria was therapy. It was quite an experience that helped her find her voice again. The film about famed opera singer Moria focuses on the final week of her life in 1977 in Paris. She's deeply isolated with only her butler and housemaid looking after her. Concerned about her health, the drugs and the devastating ripple effects of a diminishing voice.
I think for most people, and maybe especially women, I think to get to a point in your life where you really try to know your voice and make sure you... It was a rediscovery of finding my voice. I didn't know I could sing, and I hadn't expressed things loudly and openly for a while. So it was quite therapeutic, and it's something that I think is important for many people to make sure they haven't lost their voice at different times in their life, and to try to find it one way or another. So this is what helped me with her and her voice. She helped me, and that helped me to learn about her discipline.
So do you find yourself bursting into like pop songs or?
No, I only sing opera. It's actually true. I don't sing anything. I don't know how to sing anything else. So. Yeah, I do sing opera though when I'm alone now.
Michael Keaton and Mila Kunis went from strangers to father and daughter in the same order. This is a very short order for a new film called Goodrich.
Flattering because the writing was so good. If somebody would have said, I wrote this with you in mind, and I read and thought, this is not very good. I don't know how I'd feel. Yeah, that's really flattering, and I was honored and grateful, and like that. Honestly, we were just saying it was when something's written well, you're kind of halfway there already, you know. It's, you know, and I had taken a look at the movie she did before this, and I thought she did a really good job, and just the way she thought about things and how specific and organized she was. I thought, and as she and I, you know, Mila will tell you, we both said, and we get to stay at home and shoot in Los Angeles. That was a big thing, not a small thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, by the time I read the script, Michael had already been attached, and I truly thought Hallie's writing was so honest and genuine. It never felt forced. It never felt fake. It never felt anything other than the story of these people. And anytime you read a script and the dialogue flows and the characters feel specific, like there are many times you read a script and you have to go back and go, wait, which was this character? What did they do? Because the specificity in the characters is lost on paper, so they all kind of sometimes can blend into one. And so unless you read the name of the character, you're like, I actually don't know who's speaking. And when you read the script, you know, it just, everything made sense. Every character made sense, every character popped, the dynamic was real, the relationships felt real. And I think that there's a lot of people that can relate to the idea of coming from a divorced household. I'm fortunate enough to not, but that doesn't take away from the idea of not, you know, understanding that that's like a big part of a lot of people's lives. And I think that this movie gives you the idea that there's always a way around it.
And time now to get you an exclusive interview with Kareena Kapoor Khan, who attended the NDTV World Summit. She spoke about how everything is becoming Indian. More people are watching Indian movies, whether it's Indian films or Indian fashion. That is where we were right at this point in time. She's urging more and more people to start watching Indian language films.
India, I feel, is in films, because I'm an actor, I can speak in terms of films, that I think we're being, like I said, very true to ourselves, where I want people to watch more and more Indian films. I mean, now I think whether it's Lapata Ladies that is now going on to the Oscars, it's such a moment. And also if you see the films that have always been chosen have also been so true in its roots. You know, it's like the story of Lapata Ladies is something that, you know, I'm sure it happens.
Yes.
You know, you feel like and you feel close to it. And you see journey of two women. And the whole idea is that it's put India and its emotion on the map. Everyone is talking about it. It's not like, you know, कि films dub हो रही हैं Russian में, German में, French में. I think Indian language में films देख रहे हैं. And for me, I would like to tell everybody, I think globally, since, you know, it's a global summit, that our language is actually very easy to understand. And now with, I mean, those who can't, I think now we have the OTT platform, which is having subtitles. You can enjoy at least our films so much more. So I think that is something that I would like to definitely stress on, that try to watch our films in our Indian language and enjoy that a little bit more.
Right, and with that, it's a wrap on this bulletin. News and updates will continue on the other side. Just stay with us.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera